Hi there, everyone. It's 4 o'clock in New York. Faced with scene after scene after scene of increasingly brutal conduct by federal agents, often targeted at U.S. citizens these days, and an avalanche of disinformation from Donald Trump and his cabinet about what the Trump administration is actually doing on our streets and in our cities, the American people are, at least for now, choosing to believe their own eyes and their own ears. Growing numbers of Americans reacting to the Trump administration with a rising tide of revulsion and conviction to resist efforts to militarize American cities. Not only do half of all Americans say that the shooting of Renee Nicole Good by an ICE agent was not justified, about a half, 47% of all Americans, say that ICE is making the country less safe. That contrasts to 34% of Americans who say it's making the country safer. That is a 30-point swing, a 30-point shift from a year ago, from the start of Donald Trump's second presidency. That same poll shows that more people now say that ICE should be abolished than say that we should keep ICE. A dramatic, seismic political swing is the result, it's the consequence of people seeing scenes like these out of Minneapolis. We'll take you through them. Yesterday, a woman who says she's disabled was violently yanked out of her car. Her window was smashed. Her seatbelt was cut to yank her out of the car. There she is, resisting. She said she was just driving down the street where a protest happened to be taking place and was just on her way to go to the doctor. She was trying to get to a doctor's appointment. This is from Sunday. An ICE agent is kneeling on the neck of a protester, a particularly shocking and disturbing and jarring image from any standpoint, much less Minneapolis, where George Floyd was murdered 5 years ago. In a statement, the Department of Homeland Security insisted that the minimum amount of force necessary was used, and then they said that this video represented a, quote, split second for the incident. Like a little longer than a split second to me. This one's from Target last week, where two men, Christian Miranda Romano and Jonathan Aguilar Garcia, were tackled and then detained at a store at which they worked. Both men are U.S. citizens. They were later released. This took place at a gas station on Sunday. Border Patrol agents, led by Commander Gregory Bovino, smashed a car window and took a driver into custody. That same day, ICE agents smashed the window of a car. They pulled two activists out of the car, and then they detained them. Here they are yanking them out of the car, physically throwing them onto the car. On Monday, ICE agents also rammed Christian Molina's car, then stopped him to check his immigration status. Here's what he told our colleague, reporter Alex Tabbitt.
I was going down the road, coming to my mechanic to get my other car fixed. My wife was following me behind. So I was driving down the road and I saw this ICE car in the alley. And so I was driving by and I just looked at them. Once I looked at them, they ran into me right away, start following me for no reason, just because I looked. So I got a little scared at first. I was like, why is this car following me for? I didn't make no violation, any traffic violation. So I kept on going. And once I took another left, they speed up and they just ran into my car and hit me, trying to stop me.
You're an American citizen?
I am, yes.
Why do you think they stopped you?
Because I look Latino. I'm brown and I got mustache.
No one, not even city officials, are spared from the use of force and brutal tactics on the part of ICE agents. A federal agent was filmed shoving Elliot Payne, the president of the Minneapolis City Council. Here's what he said in an interview on our network.
It feels like a military occupation. It feels like we're under assault by our federal government. We're seeing people walking around with assault rifles and full military gear, and then they will just dump people off without medical care after essentially torturing them. And this is the most un-American thing I can imagine.
The backlash, growing backlash from the public to scenes of brutality in Minneapolis is where we start today. Senior contributing editor, Minneapolis native Michelle Norris is with us. She was on the ground all week covering the story and the response among its citizens in Minneapolis. With me at the table, Media Matters President Angela Carasone is here. And joining us at the table as well, host of Politics Nation, President of the National Action Network, the Reverend Al Sharpton. Michelle, I start with you. Some of these incidents happened or were starting to happen while you were there. You covered a woman being profiled or seemingly profiled and taken from a bus stop. But all those other incidents obviously happening in full view of bystanders who are taking video of them seem to be escalating on the part.
If they don't do it the easy way, they're going to do it the hard way. The big picture here is what's happening with the people of Greenland. What are they saying?
Yeah, they're incredibly concerned, and I think the latest language used by President Trump is going to be even more chilling. Everyone here has been telling us this meeting with the Danish and Greenlandic foreign ministers, with J.D. Vance, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio today is a big meeting. It is a big deal. It has everyone here worried. You know, when you speak to people here, it is very clear. No one wants to be part of the United States. Perhaps there are divisions on the independent side of how quickly the country should move to independence, which is a sort of an overwhelming view. But the Prime Minister has made, as you said, made very, very clear, Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland, therefore, is part of the EU and part of NATO. And that's where they look for support, and that's where they look for their strength. But having spoken to a good number of people here, it's a huge concern because they don't have an army here. They don't have the ability to fight back against the United States. And there's a very real concern, even within government, that the president could make good on what he's saying and that Greenlanders could wake up one day soon and find out they're American. I spoke to one businesswoman here, and this is what she said to me.
If you don't know which country you're living in a month, then, you know.
Is that real for you right now?
No, I don't want it to be real. I really try to push that thought down. But that is the worst case scenario that, you know, in a month I'm American. We don't even have military in Greenland because we don't do war. So, of course, you know, there would be, I don't know, you know, we wouldn't be able to resist the American military. No one can resist the American military.
So the big question here for people is, how does the meeting go today? It seems that both sides are in a very clear position, poles apart. Everyone here knows that J.D. Vance has been to Greenland before. It is a very big thing on his personal as well as political agenda. The Greenlandic Danish side are not for backing down. That's very clear. So the question people have here is, well, how far will the EU, how far will NATO go to support us? And I think it's fair to say at the moment that the major military northern NATO members are squarely behind Denmark, Greenland. There's a question mark perhaps over some of the others.
Yeah, a lot of people wondering how this is going to end and what that might look like. Nick Robertson, thank you so much.
Joining me right now is a member of Greenland's parliament, Juno Berthelsen. Thank you so much for coming back on. Juno, how do you respond to what we now just hear, the latest from the president? And what do you think it means for the Greenland and Danish leaders who are what they're walking into now in this White House meeting?
Good morning, Kate. Thank you for having me on our show, first of all. Well, we think that it's very positive that Greenland's Minister for Foreign Affairs represents the Greenlandic people at the meeting. And of course, positive with, you know, the diplomatic dialogue being initiated, which Nelarak, our party, has advocated for a long time.
We will talk about how updates are communicated and interpreted during periods of uncertainty. This discussion is not about any specific event, place, or individual. Instead, it focuses on general patterns that shape how information is shared, understood, and acted upon when situations are still developing. In uncertain environments, information rarely arrives all at once. Updates often come in fragments, based on reports, observations, and evolving assessments. Because of this, communication during these moments requires care, clarity, and balance. Let's begin by understanding why updates matter so much. When people sense uncertainty, they naturally look for signals that help them understand what is happening and what might happen next. Updates provide reassurance, context, and direction. Even small pieces of information can influence perception, behavior, and decision-making. However, updates are not always definitive. In many cases, they reflect the best understanding available at a given moment rather than a final conclusion. This is why responsible communication often includes careful wording, acknowledging what is known while avoiding unnecessary certainty about what remains unclear. One common theme during uncertain situations is the emphasis on de-escalation. When reports suggest that conditions are stabilizing or that severe outcomes are becoming less likely, communicators often share this cautiously. The goal is to reduce anxiety without creating false confidence. This balance helps maintain credibility while offering reassurance. It is also important to recognize that updates can change. As new information becomes available, assessments may be revised. This does not necessarily indicate inconsistency. Instead, it reflects responsiveness and learning. Updating guidance based on improved understanding is a sign of adaptive decision-making. Communication during these moments serves multiple purposes. First, it informs. Second, it sets expectations. Third, it shapes emotional response. The tone used can either calm or intensify concern. Neutral, measured language helps people process information thoughtfully rather than reactively. Another key factor is context. Information shared without context can be misunderstood. Effective updates often include explanations about how conclusions were reached, what sources were considered, and what factors might influence future developments. This context allows listeners to interpret information more accurately. It also supports trust. Trust grows when communication feels honest, proportionate, and consistent over time. When people believe that updates are shared responsibly, they are more likely to remain patient and engaged, even when clarity is limited. Let's talk about uncertainty and expectation. Uncertainty does not always mean danger. Sometimes it simply means that outcomes are still forming. Managing expectations during these periods is essential. Overstating certainty can lead to disappointment, while understating progress can increase unnecessary worry. Balanced communication avoids both extremes. It acknowledges concern while emphasizing observation, monitoring, and readiness to respond. This approach keeps people informed without overwhelming them. Another important concept is restraint. Not every development requires immediate or dramatic commentary. In some cases, observation provides valuable insight that action alone cannot. Allowing time for trends to emerge can prevent misinterpretation of temporary fluctuations. Restraint also helps preserve flexibility. When statements are made cautiously, they leave room for adjustment as new information emerges. This flexibility supports long-term credibility and reduces the risk of having to reverse positions abruptly. At the same time, silence can create uncertainty. This is why many communicators choose to provide updates even when information is limited. Saying that a situation is being monitored and that no further action is expected at this time can be reassuring in itself. The human response to updates is also important to consider. People interpret information through personal experience, emotion, and expectation. Two individuals may respond differently to the same update. One may feel reassured, while another remains cautious. Understanding this variation helps communicators choose language that is inclusive and considerate, recognizing that reassurance does not look the same for everyone. Stress and attention also play a role. During prolonged uncertainty, people may feel mentally fatigued. Clear, simple updates help reduce cognitive load. Avoiding unnecessary complexity allows information to be absorbed more easily. This is why concise summaries are often effective. Another aspect of responsible communication is acknowledging limits. No update can capture every detail. Being transparent about what is not yet known helps set realistic expectations. It also reduces speculation, as people are less likely to fill gaps with assumptions when uncertainty is acknowledged openly. Monitoring remains an ongoing process. Situations rarely resolve instantly. They evolve over time. Continuous observation allows responses to be adjusted as conditions change. Updates may become more confident as patterns stabilize, or more cautious if new uncertainties arise. This ongoing process highlights the importance of adaptability. Adaptability allows individuals and organizations to respond without panic. It supports thoughtful adjustment rather than rigid adherence to early assumptions. Adaptable systems tend to maintain stability even when conditions shift. Technology also influences how updates are shared. Information can be distributed quickly and widely. While this speed improves access, it also increases the importance of accuracy. Responsible communication prioritizes verification and clarity over immediacy. Receiving updates also requires discernment. Listeners benefit from focusing on credible, measured sources and avoiding overreaction to incomplete information. Taking time to process updates calmly supports better decision-making. Over time, uncertainty often decreases. As conditions stabilize, updates become less frequent and more definitive. What once required constant monitoring may become routine. This transition reflects learning, adjustment, and normalization. However, even during stabilization, communication remains important. Explaining why attention is shifting or why updates are becoming less frequent helps people understand that change reflects progress, not neglect. In closing,